All right, ready to dive in. Today, it's all about Marsanne, a grape with, well, a lot of history, but it doesn't always get the attention it deserves.
Yeah, it's true. You hear about Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Marsanne. Not so much, but that's what we're here for.
Exactly. We've dug up research, articles, even tasting notes, all things Marsanne. Think of this as your crash course. So next time you're at a wine tasting, you can really impress people.
That's the goal. And maybe even inspire you to, grab a bottle, try for yourself.
All right, let's set the scene. We're talking Northern Rhone Valley, France, of course.
Right.
More specifically, the Drôme region. That's where Marsanne calls home.
Yep. And the name itself probably comes from a village there,
Yeah.
Marsanne. Been around since, at least the 18th century.
Wow, 18th century. That's a long time. But I heard some people say it goes back even further, like way back. Ancient Greeks even.
Ah, yeah, there are some pretty interesting legends about where it all started. Some say Greeks over 2,000 years ago. Others, medieval monks.
Monks making wine. That's a good image.
Right, but whoever it was, Greeks, monks, or someone else entirely, it's been in the Rhone for centuries, especially with its partner in wine. You got Marsanne, you got Roussanne, they go way back.
Roussanne. Another one for the deep dive list. But for now, Marsanne. So it's got these, what, legendary roots in the Northern Rhone. But what is it about that specific place that makes it, I don't know, perfect for this grape?
Well, you can't talk wine without talking terroir.
Right.
And Marsanne is like the perfect example of how where it's grown really affects the taste. Specific soils, the climate, all of it ends up in your glass.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of soil are we talking about? What is Marsanne like?
Granite, limestone. And each one brings something different to the party. You ever notice how some wines have that, I don't know, almost like a stony taste?
Like you're licking a rock.
Haha, no, not quite. But there is this like minerality to it. With granite, you get these flinty notes, a sort of sense of wet stone. And these wines, they tend to age really well too, become even more complex over time.
So it's like the granite itself is like in the flavor.
Exactly. And then there's limestone. That
Yeah.
gives a vibrant acidity and a different kind of minerality, more, I guess, chalky, like seashells almost.
Yeah.
Gives the wine structure a backbone.
Okay, I'm getting it. So soil is important. But what about the climate up there in the Northern Rhone? How does that play into it?
Oh, climate's crucial. You need those hot days for the grapes to ripen, right?
Yeah.
To get all those sugars developed. But, and here's the thing about the Northern Rhone, it also has these cool nights, and that helps the grapes keep their acidity. So you get this balance, this ripeness, but also that cathinizing. That's what makes Marsanne wine so complex.
So it's not just about the sunshine. It's that contrast that really makes a difference. Kind of like, a good story needs those highs and lows, right?
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Let's zoom in even closer. Picture yourself right there in the vineyard looking at a Marsanne vine.
All right, I'm picturing it. What am I seeing?
Well, first thing you'll notice the leaves. Large, dark green, five lobes. And the underside is a bit lighter. Then you've got the grape bunches themselves. They can be medium to large, either kind of conical or cylindrical. And when they're ripe, they're packed with these golden yellow berries.
Golden yellow. I like the sound of that already. And those berries themselves, are they like delicate?
Actually, no, thick skins. And that's important when we get to winemaking a bit later.
Okay, thick skins. Got it. So the vine itself, is it high maintenance?
It's got its quirks. It buds late, which is good, actually. Helps it avoid those late frosts that can wipe out a whole crop.
Yeah.
But it's not lazy. It matures fairly early, meaning it avoids those heavy autumn rains that can, water down the flavors. And it's not too vigorous either, so it's manageable. But to really do well, it needs someone who knows what they're doing to make sure those grapes get enough sun.
Right, so not a total diva, but it definitely needs a skilled grower. Now, we talked about those thick skins and how that's important for winemaking. Traditionally, they use this gentle pressing so they don't get any bitterness from the skins. And a lot of times fermentation happens in oak barrels, sometimes with this lees stirring. And then there's aging sur lait, which is basically letting it sit on those spent yeast cells. All that adds complexity and texture.
Right, exactly. And it's not just what happens in the vineyard, it's also about what happens in the winery. You have those two main approaches, the traditional way and then the more modern way. It's like, I don't know, handcrafted pottery versus a really sleek modern sculpture. Both are beautiful, but in different ways.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this stylistic battle.
So traditional winemaking, it's all about those subtle flavors. Gentle pressing because of the thick skins, then fermenting in those oak barrels, sometimes with lees stirring, and then aging sur lie. It's all about bringing out those delicate aromas, that rich texture.
So it's slow and steady, letting the grape do its thing naturally. What about modern winemaking? Is it all like high tech and stuff?
Yeah, you could say that. Temperature control, special yeasts, all these techniques to clarify and filter, they're aiming for a more fruit-forward style. Really clean, polished finish.
Interesting. So like choosing between a vintage leather bag or a brand new designer one depends what you're going for.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes Marsanne so fun to explore, all those different approaches. But before we get to actually tasting it, let's talk about the different styles you might find. There's your classic dry whites, of course, but it's not just that.
Wait, hold on. There's more to Marsanne than just a regular white wine. Tell me more.
Oh, yeah, definitely. With dry whites, you've got a whole range. Some are light and fresh, perfect for, a summer day. Others are full-bodied, complex, meant for, like, savoring and aging.
So from easy drinking to like serious wine snob stuff?
Haha, exactly. But I did mention there's more than just dry whites,
You
right?
did. What else is there?
Sparkling Marsanne, which surprises some people.
Sparkling Marsanne. Okay, that's on my to-try list now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The grape itself, it has this structure and creaminess that works well with the whole sparkling method.
Mhm.
Not as common as, champagne or anything, but worth a try for sure.
All right, adding it to my wine bucket list. And wait, there's one more, isn't there? You can't leave me hanging.
There is, but it's super rare. Dessert Marsanne. It's made with dried grapes, like a straw wine, super sweet, but balanced by that natural acidity. A real treat.
Wow. Okay, so you've got your bubbly and bright, your rich and decadent. Marsanne really does it all. I'm impressed. But whenever I hear about a grape that can stand on its own like that, I always wonder, how does it play with others? What about blends?
Oh, the loves company. Especially back home in the Rhone. The classic pairing is with Roussanne. They're like the power couple of wine. Each one brings something special to the table.
Okay, I love a good wine power couple. Tell me more.
So, think of it this way. Marsanne. It brings the floral aromas, the citrus, that hint of honey. Roussanne comes in with structure, acidity, those deeper mineral notes. It's like they were meant to be together.
All right, I need to find a bottle of that ASAP. But what about like other partners? Does Marsanne ever stray from its true love, Roussanne?
Sometimes. Viognière's another good one. Adds its own, aromatic complexity. It's all about finding that balance.
Right, so we've got solo acts, duets, even a full band. But enough about how it's made. How does it taste? Let's talk tasting notes.
Oh, get ready. Marsanne's got some surprises.
Hmm.
You've got your classic citrus and stone fruit, but then you get these hints of acacia, honeysuckle,
Hmm.
even marzipan as it ages. Pretty unusual for a white wine.
Hold on, marzipan. That's a new one for me. I'm picturing those like little marzipan fruits you see in like fancy pastry shops.
Haha. Well, not
Yeah.
exactly like that.
Yeah.
But you get those subtle nutty notes, almost almond-like. And as the wine ages, those change into dried fruit, honey, sweet spice. It's really interesting.
I'm getting thirsty just hearing about it. So, all these aromas, what does it actually taste like? What should I expect when I take a sip?
Well, Marsanne is known for its creamy texture. It's medium to full-bodied. And it's got that moderate acidity, so it's not like sharp, but it's not flabby either. It's got this nice volume to it.
When you say volume, what does that actually mean in terms of taste?
Think about it like this. You take a sip, and the flavors they coat your mouth. There's weight, there's presence, but it's still elegant.
Mm.
And you get this interplay of fruit, mineral, honey, spice. It's not just one flavor. It kind of unfolds as you drink it.
Sold. We got to talk about food pairing soon. My stomach's rumbling. But before we do, you mentioned aging before. A lot of times you hear about aging reds, but what about white wines like Marsanne? Can they handle it?
Oh, absolutely. Marsanne is one of those whites that can really benefit from aging. We're talking 5, 10, even more years, depending on the style. And as it ages, all those flavors we talked about, they change. The fruit becomes more dried fruit. The honey and spice get stronger. The marzipan really comes out.
Like a time capsule of flavor.
Yeah, kind of. And because it's got good structure and acidity, it ages gracefully. It doesn't just fade, it transforms. It gets even more complex and interesting.
Okay, I'm officially putting some Marsanne away for later. This is already changing my wine game. Now I'm dying to know, what do I eat with this stuff?
Oh, this is where it gets fun. Marsanne is so versatile. Think of those classic Rhone pairings. Goat cheese, river fish, roasted poultry, charcuterie. It can handle it all.
Oh, hold on. Goat cheese and Marsanne. You're speaking my language. Give me some specifics. I'm gonna get hungry.
Imagine a creamy Croton de Chavignol with that bluny rind next to a glass of Marsanne. The acidity cuts through the richness of the cheese, and the floral and honey notes complement those tangy, earthy flavors.
Hmm.
Or picture Moroccan tagine with lamb and apricots. The wine's fruit and spice just echoes those flavors perfectly. There are so many possibilities.
My mouth is watering. Okay, sold. But before we all run out to buy a bottle, let's talk appellations again. What should we look for on the label?
Kroll's Hermitage AOC is a good place to start. It's the largest in the northern Rhone, and blends are common there. Lots of white fruit and floral notes.
And for something a little fancier.
Hermitage AOC, that's where Marsanne really shines. You'll find a lot of Marsanne Roussanne blends, or even 100% Marsanne. Super rich, age-worthy, and bursting with those citrus, floral, mineral, honey notes. These are the ones to sell her.
Okay, good to know. And what about St. Joseph AOC?
St. Joseph's on the right bank of the Rhone, and the soil there is different. You get more of that slate or granite minerality in the wine. Still elegant with those citrus and floral aromas, but a little more, I guess, edgy.
So we've got our fresh and fruity Croesus Hermitage, our powerful Hermitage, and our edgy St. Joseph. Wow, it's amazing how much difference the place makes, you know.
That's the beauty of wine, right? It's like a snapshot of a place, a time. And with a grape like Marsanne, that story is pretty amazing.
All right, I'm adding all three of those appellations to my list, but standing in front of all those bottles at the store can be a little overwhelming. Are there any specific producers we should keep an eye out for?
Definitely. Manchou Chapoutier, they do biodynamic winemaking.
Yeah.
And their Hermitage Blanc Le Mal, it's 100% Marsanne. It's really something special.
Biodynamic, 100% Marsanne. Sounds like a winner to me. And for those of us who like to age our wines, any recommendations?
Vom Louis Chave. They've been making wine in Hermitage for like centuries. They have this blend of Marsanne and Roussanne that can age for decades. It's really legendary.
Wow, drinking history. Okay, that's going on the wish list. So we've covered a lot: history, terroir, winemaking, even those tasting notes. But it wouldn't be a true deep dive without talking about the downsides, right?
Right. It's not all sunshine and perfect pairings. There are challenges too.
So lay it on me. What are some of the things that make it tough for Marsanne?
Well, for one, not many people know about it. Compared to like Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc, it's still pretty obscure.
Like the underdog, just waiting for its moment to shine.
Exactly. So there's a lot of work to do, just getting the word out there, letting people know how special it is.
I feel like we're doing our part with this deep dive. But what about diseases? I know that can be a big problem for grapes, especially with, the climate changing and all. Is Marsanne tough, or does it need a lot of care?
Disease is a constant worry for growers, and Marsanne is susceptible to some of those fungal diseases. It can affect how much they can grow and the quality of the grapes.
Yeah.
So careful management is really important, and a lot of producers are trying organic and biodynamic practices to help keep the vines healthy.
So it's all about balance, right? Protecting the plants, but also protecting the environment. Speaking of which, how are Marsanne growers dealing with climate change? Anything new and interesting happening there?
A lot of growers are trying different things, like changing how close together they plant the vines to reduce water stress, or using different rootstocks that are more drought tolerant, even experimenting with how they train the vines to get the right amount of shade and air circulation. And they're even harvesting later sometimes to keep that acidity in the grapes as temperatures get higher.
So adapting and innovating, basically, working with nature. That's good to hear. But thinking about the future, what are the chances for Marsanne? I mean, do you think it'll take off?
I think it has a lot of potential. We're seeing more and more Marsanne being planted, not just in the Rhone, but in other parts of France, Australia, the U.S.,
Yeah.
even South Africa.
Wow, going global. And what about the winemaking itself? Any new trends, anything experimental happening with Marsanne?
Oh, yeah. Some are trying skin contact fermentation. You might know it as orange wine. That gives it more texture in cannons. Others are using like concrete eggs or amphorae for fermenting and aging.
Yeah.
It's supposed to bring out the minerality and freshness.
It sounds like there's a lot going on. So with all these challenges and opportunities, where do you see Marsanne heading?
I think it has a bright future. I really do.
Yeah.
As more people try it and realize how unique and versatile it is, it's bound to become more popular. And you've got all these passionate winemakers. They're really dedicated to preserving its heritage, but also exploring its potential. So I have no doubt it's going to keep, surprising and delighting us for years to come.
That's a great note to end on. But we're not done yet. There's still more to our Marsanne deep dive. So join us next time as we dive even deeper. Back again for more Marsanne.
Last time, We got through, well, a lot. History, terroir, those tricky growing conditions. I'm starting to feel like a bit of a Marsanne expert, honestly.
Getting there. And don't forget those tasting notes. Marzipan, honey. You don't find that in just any white wine, you know.
Seriously, it's got me really curious. And speaking of curiosity, we mentioned before that the Northern Rhone is like Marsanne Central. But let's zoom in a bit. Talk about those specific appellations. Crosses Hermitage, Hermitage, St. Joseph. For a wine lover, those names are just like magic.
Right. Each one has its own personality, its own story, and it's amazing how the same grape can be so different just depending on where it grows.
Okay, so let's start with Crosses Hermitage AOC. It's the biggest one in the Northern Rhone, right? Seems like a good place to start if you're new to Marsanne. What should we be looking for in these wines? Crosses Hermitage is, well, it's known for being pretty approachable. You get those bright white fruit aromas, peaches, pears, maybe a little apricot. And those floral notes we talked about, honeysuckle, acacia, they're often pretty strong here.
So it's all about that fresh sort of aromatic style. And you mentioned blends being common in Crosses Hermitage. Is that like typical for Marsanne?
Yeah, in this region, you'll often see it blended with Roussanne, its trusty partner. And sometimes a bit of Viognier gets thrown in, too, to add even more of that perfumed quality. It's all about balance, really. The Marsanne brings the freshness, the fruit. Roussanne adds structure, a little spice. And Viognier, well, it's a little extra floral oomph.
Sounds like a pretty good team. And are these wines meant to be drunk young, or can they age a bit?
Crozes Hermitage Marsanne. It's usually made to be enjoyed, and enjoyed right away. Great for casual get-togethers, picnics, even just like a weeknight dinner. Anytime you want something bright and refreshing, but still, still interesting.
All right, Crosses Hermitage, checked. But now, let's say I'm ready to level up a bit. I want something, I don't know, a little more serious. A wine with some aging potential. Something to impress my wine nerd friends. What's next?
Then we have to talk about Hermitage AOC. That's where Marsanne really shows what it can do. The wines are powerful, but also elegant. They can age for decades.
Just the name Hermitage sounds, well, impressive. What is it about this place that makes it so special for Marsanne?
It's that terroir again.
Yeah.
Those steep vineyards, they're all terraced. The soil's granitic. And you have those hot days, cool nights. It all comes together to create wines that are, well, incredibly concentrated, a lot of depth. And in Hermitage, you'll find blends with a higher percentage of Marsanne, sometimes even 100%.
100% Marsanne. Now that's what I'm talking about. I bet those honey and marzipan notes are just incredible.
Oh, yeah, it's really something else. Hermitage Blanc. Think like really ripe pear, apricot, even quince, and that honeyed richness. And because of the granite soil, you get this really strong minerality. It's like the backbone of the wine. Gives it structure, and it means it can age for a long time.
Okay, Hermitage Blanc is officially on my wine bucket list. But
Yeah.
and I'm guessing there's a but here. If it's like the best of the best, that probably means it's, expensive.
Well, quality and prestige, they don't come cheap, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hermitage wine, especially the whites, they're in high demand.
Yeah.
And they don't make a lot of it, which means, yeah, they could be pretty pricey. But even if you can't afford to, like, stock your cellar with them, trying a glass of Hermitage Blanc just once, it's something every wine lover should experience.
Duly noted. Time to start saving up.
Yeah.
Now, we can't talk Northern Rhone without talking St. Joseph AOC. What's different about this area, and what should we expect from its Marsanne?
St. Joseph, it's on the right bank of the Rhone River, and the terroir there is quite different. Steeper slopes, a mix of granite and other soils. The climate's a bit cooler, too.
So a little more rugged, wild compared to the others.
Yeah, exactly. And you can taste that in the wines. St. Joseph Marsanne is usually a bit more restrained. There's a strong minerality, almost, I don't know, flinty, smoky even. You still get those floral and citrus notes, but there's this like savory edge to it, a complexity that takes time to really show itself.
And blends are common in St. Joseph's too.
Oh yeah, Marsanne and Roussanne are usually together here. But you might also see Syrah added to the mix. That's pretty unique to this appellation. It gives a bit of a spicy, peppery kick. Makes it even more interesting.
A white wine with Syrah. Now that's something I got to try. So, okay, we've got three very different Marsannes here. Krause's Hermitage, all fresh and young and fun. Hermitage, powerful, age-worthy. And St. Joseph with that wild, savory thing going on. It's amazing how the terroir really shapes the grape,
It is. That's what makes wine so fascinating, right? It's a reflection of the place, the history, the people who made it. And with Marsanne, that story is Well, it's a pretty good one.
I'm sold. All three appellations are officially on my list. But, you walk into a wine shop and there are so many bottles, it can be a little intimidating, to say the least. Are there any, like, producer names we should be looking for? Anyone who really stands out?
Oh, for sure. We mentioned a couple in part one, but let's dive in a little deeper. First, there's M. Chapoutier. They're like an icon in the Rhone Valley, known for biodynamic practices, so they're, really working with nature.
I like the sound of that. And what makes their Marsanne special?
Purity, precision. It's really all about expressing that terroir. Their Hermitage Blanc Le Mail, it's 100% Marsanne, and it's like the gold standard for the appellation. Super concentrated, complex, layers of honeyed fruit, minerals, and the finish just goes on and on.
Okay, that one's going straight to the top of my list. What about for those of us who love those aged wines? Any suggestions?
Domaine Jean-Louis Chave. This is a family estate. They've been making wine in Hermitage for like centuries. Their reputation is, well, legendary.
And their Hermitage Blanc, what's so special about it?
It's a blend of Marsanne and Roussanne, and these wines can age for like, I'm talking decades. They have this incredible balance of richness, acidity, and all these complex aromas that just keep getting better over time. These are wines to collect, to treasure.
It's like drinking history bottled up.
Exactly. And if you're looking for a more modern style, there's Domaine Alain Griot. They focus on like really vibrant fruit flavors. The wines are very fresh, easy to drink.
So a little more approachable, maybe for people who aren't quite ready for those super aged wines.
Exactly. Their Crosses Hermitage Blanc is a good example. Lots of ripe fruit, but still balanced with that refreshing acidity. It's a great wine to just sip on its own or have with dinner.
So we got a good range here, from traditional to modern. It's amazing how each winemaker brings their own style to Marsanne.
That's what's so cool about wine, right? It's always evolving, always surprising you. But, we've been talking about how great Marsanne is, but it's important to remember that it's not always easy. It's got its challenges, too. We talked about climate change, but what else makes things tough for Marsanne?
Yeah, it can't be all sunshine and roses in the vineyard, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the hurdles?
Well, one of the biggest is just a lack of awareness. People don't know about it. Compared to, like, your Chardonnays and Sauvignon Blancs, it's still pretty under the radar.
Still waiting for its breakout moment.
Exactly. So a lot of it comes down to education,
Right.
letting people know what they're missing, why they should be excited about Marsanne.
Well, we're doing our part here, but what about diseases? I know that can be a big problem for grapes, especially with the climate changing and everything. Is Marsanne pretty tough, or does it need a lot of TLC?
Yeah, disease is a constant worry.
Yeah.
And Marsanne, unfortunately, it's susceptible to some of those fungal diseases. And those can affect the yield, how much they can grow, and also the quality. So careful vineyard management is really key. A lot of producers are turning to organic and biodynamic practices to try to keep those vines healthy.
Makes sense. Protecting the plants, protecting the environment. And speaking of the environment, how are Marsanne growers dealing with climate change? Any cool new approaches happening out there?
Lots of experimentation going on. Some growers are adjusting the planting density so the vines aren't so stressed for water. Others are using different rootstocks, ones that are more, drought tolerant. And some are even playing around with like different ways of training the vines, make sure they're getting the right amount of shade, the right air circulation. And they're even experimenting with harvesting later so the grapes can keep their acidity even with those rising temperatures.
So lots of adaptation, lots of creativity. That's great to hear. But looking forward, what do you think the future holds for Marsanne? Do you think it'll really take off?
I do. I think it's got a bright future as more people get to know it, experience its uniqueness and versatility. I think it's bound to become more and more popular.
Yeah.
And you have all these dedicated winemakers who are passionate about preserving its history, but also, exploring what it can do. So I'm optimistic. I think Marsanne is going to keep surprising and delighting us for a long time to come.
Great way to put it. I'm excited to be along for the ride. But before we get too carried away, we've got one more part to our Marsanne deep dive. Still more to explore, more to learn. So join us next time as we dive even deeper. Okay, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been all over the Northern Rhone. We've talked about Marsanne's, its quirks, its flavors, even its future with, the climate changing and everything.
It's been quite the journey. Who knew there was so much to say about Marsanne?
Right. But for this last part, I kind of want to, zoom out a bit, look at the big picture. We've gotten pretty technical, but what about Marsanne's, like, place in the world of wine? Its story, I guess its cultural
Thinking
significance.
big, huh? You're right. There's more to wine than just, the facts and figures.
Yeah.
It's about the stories, the connections, the feelings it evokes.
Exactly. So, what's Marsanne's story if we had to, like, sum it up?
To me, it's a story of, well, resilience, quiet confidence. It's a grape that's like never tried to be something it's not. It's been there all along, quietly doing its thing, often overshadowed by, those flashier grapes.
Kind of like that talented artist who's finally getting recognized after years of, like, working in obscurity.
Perfect analogy. For a long time, Marsanne was happy to be a supporting player, blending in, adding its own touch to those Rhone wines. But now it's getting its chance to shine, showing what it can do on its own, and people are starting to really take notice.
It makes you think about all those other underappreciated grapes out there, the ones that haven't had their moment yet. Maybe it's a reminder to be more adventurous,
Hmm.
to look beyond those familiar names and try something new.
Absolutely. There's so much to discover in the world of wine, and sometimes the most rewarding experiences come from, taking a chance on something unexpected.
So if we were to give Marsanne, like, a personality, what would it be? The life of the party, the quiet intellectual, the world traveler.
Hmm. I think Marsanne's more like a wise old sage. Someone who's seen it all and has a story for everything. It's not flashy, but it has this quiet confidence, a depth that draws you in.
I like that. And it makes sense when you think about how those Marsanne wines age. They're not meant to be drunk young. They need time to develop, to open up. It's like they're sharing their wisdom, one sip at a time.
Mm,
Yeah.
exactly. And that wisdom, it shows in how versatile it is. We talked about how it pairs with, well, pretty much everything from like delicate fish to those hearty stews. It adapts, it complements, it always brings something special to the
It's
table.
it's not just about the taste of the wine itself. It's about the whole experience, the memories it creates, finding that perfect pairing that takes a meal to the next level.
That's the magic of wine, isn't it? It's more than just a drink. It's about connection, celebration, those moments of pure enjoyment. And Marsanne, with its unique character, its ability to take you somewhere else, it really embodies that magic.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, as we wrap up our Marsanne deep dive, I gotta ask, what would you say to someone who's never tried it before? What's the one thing you want them to know?
I'd say,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to try something new. Give Marsanne a chance. Explore its different styles. See what speaks to you. It's a grape that rewards curiosity. It invites you to look closer, to discover what's hiding beneath the surface.
Well said. So, to all our listeners, go out there and find yourself a bottle of Marsanne, explore those appellations, try different producers, and most importantly, let us know what you think. We love hearing from you, learning about your wine
That's what
adventures.
the deep dive is all about: exploring, learning, sharing our love for wine.
And until next time, happy sipping.